Hello and welcome to the next Key Stage 3 Maths lesson, and today we're going to start a topic called transformations. So if you think of where you've heard that before, transformers, it means that we change something or move something, and that's what we're going to do today. So there are different parts to transformations, and what I'm going to look at today is one called translation. So translation. So by the end of the lesson you're going to know what translation means. You're going to understand something called vector notation, and then you're going to be able to translate a shape using a vector notation. So where have you heard the word translate before? Most people think about languages, so translating between different languages, for example French and English. And what does it really mean? It means that you change something but it stays the same. So if I was to say hello in French and change it to English, I've changed it, but it still stays the same. It still means hello. So that's what a translation is. So a translation in maths, it means to move a shape without changing its appearance. So it's a way of moving shapes around a page. And the way that a shape's moved or translated can be given in either words or using something called vector notation, which we'll go into a bit later. So here is an example of a translation. Translate the rectangle on the screen, right 5 squares and up 3 squares. So we take the rectangle, we move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares to the right, and then we have to move it 3 squares up. So that would be where the finished shape ends up. So that shape has now been translated 5 squares right and 3 squares up. Now, can you try and move that diamond? So can you just pause the screen for a few minutes? Can you drag that diamond? And then can you try and translate that diamond 4 squares left and 5 squares down? Okay, if you've done that, I'll try and go through it with you now, but you may have found that one a little bit more difficult. And it's a little bit different to the rectangle, because this time, rather than moving the whole shape, I'm going to pick each corner and then move each corner one at a time. So the first corner moves to there, the second corner moves to there, until you've got all 4 corners. All you have to do then is join them up and that shape has been moved. So that's another way to move them. You can either move the whole shape or you can move it corner at a time. Can you pause the screen for me please, and can you try to answer those 4 questions? So can you translate all those shapes and can you pause the screen? Well done if you've done that. Remember you can send all work into the Edge Academy. So please, 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 if you have completed the work, please send it in and I will mark it and give you feedback. And this one is going to be slightly different. I want you to describe how you get from one shape to the other. So for example, for question 2A, how do I get from A, which is in the top left-hand corner, down to E, which is in the middle of the page? So how do I get from A to E? So you have to work out what the movement is. So you have to write down first whether it's left or right and then up or down. So can you pause the screen and give those a try for me please? It'll take about 10 minutes. Can you work out all of those translations? Okay, well done if you've done that one. Okay, so I said something about using something called vector notation. So this is the way of writing something down. So instead of writing 3 squares right and 2 squares up, you can write to something called a vector notation. And it's similar to coordinates, that the first number, the top number, means left or right, and the bottom number means up or down. But we put them in brackets with one number above the other. So the top number is how far left or right you move, and the bottom number is how far up or down you move. So a negative number on the top means that you move to the left, and the negative number on the bottom means that you move downwards, which is very similar to coordinates. So if you want to make a note of that, please pause the screen at any point. So, what does 4, 6 mean? If you want to pause the screen and write down your answer. Okay, so it means 4 squares right and 6 squares up. So give yourself a tick if you got that one. There's the next one for you to give a try. And that one means 3 squares left and 5 squares up. There's the next one, so you want to pause the screen between each of these. That means 6 squares right and 1 square down. Finally, -4, -5. And that one means 4 squares left and 5 squares down. So please give those a tick if you've got them right. Well done. And now we're going to start applying this vector notation to questions. So here's the first one. Can you translate, so move, the triangle by 7 minus 3? 7 minus 3. So can you pause the screen and give those a try, please? Remember to send your work into the Edge Academy and it will get marked. Thank you for doing the work. And then we're going to move on to something called island hopping. So there is a map, and this map will come again in a minute so you can use it. It's like a treasure map. And I want you to work out where I stop along the way. So I start at the Blue Lagoon. Where do I move to? Where do I go to? So can you just take a moment? Can you pause the screen and can you write those down? Once you've wrote those down, I will then put the map back up and then can you answer those questions, please? So pause the screen, write those down. And now I'm going to show you the map. So all these questions will relate to this map. So can you pause the screen and have a look at that map? And can you write down the answers to the question? So pause the screen and answer those questions, please. Well done if you've done that, so please send your work into the Edge Academy. If you have any problems, you can always email me with any questions that you have. So please send your work into the Edge Academy. Here's the next questions for you. So use vectors, the vector notation, to describe the following translations of the shapes on the grid below. So how do you get from A to B? You've done something similar, but this time I want you to use a vector notation. So can you use vector notation to work out those, please? Well done if you've done those. And then finally, I want you to apply what you've learnt today to some worded questions. So these are a little bit more complex just because there's words involved. So can you try and decode what the words mean, take out the information that you need, and can you apply what you've learnt during this lesson to those questions? So you want to pause the screen and can you answer those questions? Well done if you've done that. Please send all your work into the Edge Academy. And finally, just to go over the lesson objectives, all of you should know what translation means. Most of you will be able to understand what vector notation is, so very similar to coordinates. And some of you are able to translate, so move a shape using that vector notation. Well done for completing the work, and I hope to see you all very soon.